A new round of Israeli-Palestinian conflict seems to be heading in a direction that most people dread. Arab countries collectively remain silent, and the ones taking the lead in seeking justice for the Palestinian people are the Persians and modern-day Turks. The international community voices its anger, but Israel continues on its solitary path, and the Palestinian people face the threat of extinction. However, will Israel truly crush Gaza with overwhelming force, annex the entire Palestinian territory, and establish the so-called Greater Israel? This possibility is highly unlikely because the objective laws of historical development reveal a truth: great powers that are belligerent tend to meet their downfall, while small nations persist. Israel is a formidable nation in the Middle East but faces a daunting Arab population of 400 million. Israel relies on military strength for its survival and national security, yet it is also vulnerable if its military power crumbles. For modern-day Israel, cultivating animosity with neighboring Arab nations and sowing the seeds of generational hatred is a harbinger of its own demise. History, such as the European Crusades to the east, the establishment and eventual downfall of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, teaches us that history doesn't merely repeat itself, but it can exhibit astonishing similarities. Starting a war may be easy, but controlling its course and ending it according to one's own desires is exceedingly challenging. Often, the warring parties are not the ultimate beneficiaries, and the dividends of war flow in unforeseen directions. Over a year ago, who would have expected Russia to suddenly launch a lightning strike against Ukraine and commence a special military operation? Who would have imagined that Ukraine, facing the Russian military encroachment, would hold its ground and engage in protracted strategic warfare? Even Ukraine, which received substantial aid, likely never anticipated becoming an abandoned child of Western nations and facing another impending crisis. Originally, the Russia-Ukraine conflict greatly benefited the United States, but who would have thought that this military conflict, which completely severed ties between Russia and the Western world, also brought substantial gains to China, India, and other countries? So, will this latest Israeli-Palestinian conflict offer China unexpected dividends and a strategic opportunity once again? In this video, we will delve into the recently intensifying Israeli-Palestinian conflict, discussing the following topics. What constitutes a strategic opportunity period? Previous strategic opportunities seized by China. What benefits can the Israeli-Palestinian conflict bring to China? One, what is a strategic opportunity period? In the 1930s, the Great Depression swept through the capitalist world. The newly established Soviet Union seized a historical opportunity, globally acquiring and assembling technology and talent from developed Western capitalist nations, vigorously driving its own industrialization. After World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, Japan capitalized on the dividends brought by the Korean War. They utilized the strategic intent of the United States to establish an anti-communist bridgehead in Asia, rapidly revived their economy, and catapulted to become the world's second-largest economy at the time. South Korea, situated across the sea from Japan, also took advantage of the historical opportunity presented by the Vietnam War and the Third Industrial Transfer of Western countries. This led to the miracle of South Korea, rapidly transforming their impoverished and backward status into that of a developed nation. These are real historical cases where these countries, based on their national interests and comparative advantages, seized historical opportunities amidst evolving international dynamics and achieved their strategic goals. 2. What historical opportunities did China seize? Likewise, after the founding of the People's Republic of China, China also capitalized on various stages of historical opportunities. It took less than 100 years for China to accomplish what Western capitalist developed nations spent several centuries achieving. In the early days of the PRC, facing the intense international situation of the early Cold War, China, based on its own circumstances, proactively cultivated good relations with the Soviet Union and the group of socialist countries. This move secured the most precious initial capital for industrialization and security, famously known as the 156 Project, along with numerous military aid projects, allowing the fledgling Chinese regime to survive in an environment fraught with strong adversaries. By the 1980s, the perceptive Chinese leadership recognized the worldwide wave of new technologies and the ongoing industrial revolution. They decided to open up to the world, initiating the policy of reform and opening up. China actively integrated into the economic globalization dominated by Western nations, propelling its economy and comprehensive national strength to new heights. The most recent historical opportunity period emerged in the new century when the United States shifted its focus to the East, designating China as its primary competitor and target for strategic containment and pressure. China seized the moment, taking advantage of the 9/11 event in 2001 and the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis. It successfully adjusted its relationship with the United States and deepened its reforms. During the strategic opportunity of the United States being preoccupied with the war on terror, China continued to thrive, accumulating enough capital to prepare for future strategic confrontations. It can be said that if China hadn't seized these fleeting historical opportunities, completing the initial stages of industrialization and modernization, the United States might have initiated trade wars and tech wars against China, along with its allies, much earlier, making things even more challenging for China's national rejuvenation process. So, these hard-to-come-by historical opportunities serve as a catalyst on China's path to national rejuvenation and a reward for the strenuous efforts of people of all ethnicities. For China today, what kind of historical opportunities are needed? How might the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict offer strategic dividends? 3. The significant historical opportunities the current Israeli-Palestinian conflict may bring to China. Many times, it's not that we aren't diligent enough, but rather the timing isn't right, and we lack a historical opportunity. After the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war, many things suddenly made significant breakthroughs. For instance, the long-stalled China-Kyrgyzstan-Ukraine railway project finally started to make progress. The legendary development of Russia's Far East and Siberia, a project long in the making, also began to capture public attention. China achieved a historic high in its trade with Russia, with the Chinese yuan becoming the primary currency in Russia's foreign exchange transactions. European industrial capital accelerated its investments in China, and more. To claim that these developments have no connection to the Russia-Ukraine conflict would be ignoring the facts. In the past, many initiatives we wanted to actively pursue encountered significant resistance. The reasons were manifold, involving complex geopolitical maneuvering and disputes of national interests that could not be quickly resolved through regular channels. However, a war unexpectedly broke the shackles that restrained progress on these matters and disrupted existing patterns of benefit distribution, providing China with a precious opportunity. China's fortune in obtaining these strategic dividends is closely linked to its neutral foreign policy and formidable economic strength. Similarly, in the current Israeli-Palestinian conflict, China maintains a just and objective stance, expressing its attitude based on reality. This impartial approach has not only garnered widespread responses and support from Arab nations but also secured the moral high ground, making countries like the United States and Israel cautious about their actions and sowing the seeds for future influence in the Middle East. Don't underestimate the impact of China's neutral stance, as it serves several key functions. 1. It garners political and public support from a multitude of developing nations. 2. It enhances China's attractiveness, opening the door to untapped markets in third-world countries. If the Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues to worsen, and if the relations between Middle Eastern and Western countries deteriorate, possibly to the extent of an oil embargo, although this possibility is low, this could lead to a partial decoupling of Middle Eastern economies from Western nations. When that happens, who will fill the massive market demand gap that emerges in these Middle Eastern countries? Chinese enterprises with strength and courage are already being beckoned by this lucrative market. There's also the issue of the petrodollar hegemony. Petrodollar hegemony is a double-edged sword, with both advantages and disadvantages. As the United States continues to decline, the Middle Eastern oil-producing nations that are deeply intertwined with the petrodollar hegemony also desire an exit strategy. The two main obstacles to them leaving this hegemony are beginning to weaken. First, the dominance of the US dollar is being challenged by the growing strength of the Chinese yuan, making the internationalization of the yuan an unstoppable trend. Second, the military deterrent capability that maintains the security of the petrodollar hegemony may suffer significant damage due to this round of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The logic behind this issue is that Israel's strategic entanglement with the United States has put the United States in a strategic dilemma. Regardless of whether they choose to support or not, the United States will lose supporters. Furthermore, they will deplete their national strength, allowing China, Russia, Iran, and other nations to seize strategic opportunities and claim the war dividends. For Middle Eastern oil-producing countries, it might be wiser to invest their money in the Chinese market, reaping the rewards of China's economic development, rather than leaving it in an insecure place where they are constantly anxious. Notably, China's foreign exchange outflow this year is the highest since 2016, and if it can attract investment from Middle Eastern oil-producing countries into its domestic real economy, it will significantly stabilize China's international balance of payments, strengthen the renminbi's exchange rate, and boost confidence in the Chinese economy. As China's economic and trade relations with Arab countries are poised to reach new heights, this will inevitably trigger another subsidiary mission: regional economic integration. With the Belt and Road Initiative as the linchpin, major infrastructure projects as the primary focus, and financial services as a complementary measure, once China incorporates the nearly 400 million population of the Arab world into a free trade zone, it will not only have a solid economic rear but will also become a political ally on the international stage alongside friendly African countries. Can the United States still block and contain China in this scenario? It's difficult. Moreover, this is just one part of China's grand vision for the future. In today's world, the situation is increasingly tumultuous. Regardless of external changes, we must maintain our strategic composure and actively seize strategic opportunities to achieve the grand goal of peaceful and stable development. Only then can the beautiful vision of a community of shared human destiny become a reality. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. We genuinely appreciate your support.